The year is 2045, when countless portals abruptly appear on the blue star, unleashing a massive horde of attacking monsters. Right after this sudden and massive disaster, the beasts effortlessly took control of everything, and humanity faced a drastic decline in their survival. To make matters worse, traditional firearms had no impact, being useful only to eliminate lower-class demonic monsters. On the other hand, higher-level creatures withstood the blasts without serious injuries, or simply dodged the attacks with great ease. It was in this desperate scenario that the human survivors ended up finding an enigmatic and unprecedented gas, which they named Origin Chi. Then, right after the pioneering mass use of thermal weaponry, a gigantic level 8 beast called the Blood Moon Wolf suddenly appeared. Leading the offensive, this creature ruthlessly decimated humanity, forcing everyone into a definitive retreat and making them vow never to try using nuclear weapons again. However, hope was not completely extinguished, as the world's first martial arts practitioner, now considered the strongest individual on Earth and known as the Tao God, emerged on the battlefield. After an extremely fierce clash that lasted for 3 continuous days and 3 nights, he was finally able to behead that terrifying monster. From then on, an unprecedented era focused on martial arts began for humanity, although the great obstacle was that very few people possessed the gift for it. To reach the rank of a 1-star fighter, a person had to overcome absurd levels of vitality, speed, and physical strength through severe exams. Since then, becoming a more powerful fighter became everyone's main goal, as they continually tried to progress through the 4 great realms of strength. Exactly 50 complete years have passed since those decisive events transformed the trajectory of the planet. Returning to the present day, the MC is seen facing a huge, terrifying crow emitting a strong blood-red glow. Without any chance to react, he is hit by a violent strike straight to the chest, feeling immense pain due to the force of that devastating attack. Waking up startled back to reality, the MC jumps up from his school desk in a panic, sweating as if his final hour had just crossed his path. As he wipes his face trying to take a deep breath, he quickly notices that he is safe inside his martial arts high school, located in Nani province. Chen Mu leans on the desk to try to steady himself, but he cannot ignore that he just experienced that exact disturbing nightmare once again. At that moment, the teacher yells at him in front of all the students, expressing his outrage and asking how he has the nerve to fall asleep during the explanation. With the mock exam report card in hand, the instructor informs the young man that he got the lowest grades, and according to the institution's regulations, is permanently expelled. Noticing the red mark confirming his expulsion on the paper, Chen Mu is perplexed by what he hears and asks Instructor Zhao if there isn't some mistake. The teacher, however, responds harshly, assuring him that the evaluations are correct and ordering the boy to inform his parents and leave the school within 3 days. The young man is in shock upon understanding the gravity of that statement, because at the end of that period, he will be forbidden from entering the institution ever again. Clenching his fists intensely with frustration, he tries to justify himself by saying he has been training hard over the last few days and begs for one last chance. In his mind, there is still a valuable period before the great national exam takes place, which makes him believe that with a lot of training, passing is still possible. Adjusting the glasses on his face, Zhao states that he acknowledges the boy's dedication and even had high hopes for him, but points out that in the harsh reality of that world, natural talent is the deciding factor. The instructor continues to discourage the young man, highlighting that he is the only student in an entire decade of classes whose vital energy has decreased instead of growing. Chen Mu is fully aware of the reason for this, because ever since the beginning of that bizarre dream with the bird, his stats started plummeting without any justification. Due to this continuous loss of stats, the gap between his current power and the basic score required to pass the tests only widens. At the same time, the other students start making fun of him, laughing at the fact that his effort only makes him weaker and saying that his destiny will be working in construction. Hitting the board hard to demand absolute silence, the instructor warns the undisciplined students that there are only 30 days left until the martial exam. Taking advantage of the situation, he makes a general threat, informing them that the 10 worst students in the class will also be expelled, citing Chen Mu's case as a warning. Listening to everything in silence and feeling completely ashamed, the MC looks down, paying close attention to his own bandaged hands marked by training. A great distress takes over him, as without being able to join a martial arts academy, his family's financial situation will be ruined. With bitterness, he remembers his sick mother, who needs medication, and his sister, who will require a lot of funds for her training, making him feel like a total failure. At that moment, old memories surface, bringing to mind the times when his mother, even fragile and unwell, asked him to rest instead of overtraining. The memory of his exhausted and injured father working at the docks also appears, and Chen Mu suffers internally, wondering how he will have the courage to look at them now. He also remembers when his younger sister gave him her own portion of meat at dinner, claiming with a smile that her brother's body needed more nutrients. The girl always showed absolute trust in him, declaring very proudly that her older brother would unquestionably be accepted into the university. Back then, the young girl happily imagined the future, commenting that they would both make a good living together to give their exhausted parents a nice retirement. The current reality, however, completely destroys him, as he sees that his sister is a promising talent, while he has become a burden to the family, failing his brotherly role. Returning to the present, the instructor looks at him coldly and demands that he stop kidding himself, making it clear that his situation is beyond repair. Already outside the school, walking with his head down towards the exit, his classmates keep laughing and calling him a walking failure behind his back. The weather conditions seem to exactly reflect his sadness, with a heavy thunderstorm pouring down as he walks alone down the street. Feeling empty and drowning in negative thoughts, the young man crosses the street completely soaked, not knowing what direction to take in his life from now on. Abruptly, a familiar person appears walking down the street with an umbrella and calls out to him, asking if the terrible rumor about his expulsion is true. Identified shortly after as Wang Yu, his old and best schoolmate, the boy tries to offer hypocritical comfort, suggesting that he shouldn't be so down. The guy's true colors, however, are quickly shown through a wicked look, as he declares that this was life's initial lesson to show that Chen Mu is now all alone. Suffering from the harsh reality, Chen Mu returns to his rented room and lies down on the small bed, remembering all the money his parents invested in that space. With sadness, he reflects that not long ago, both that arrogant classmate and all the instructors used to praise him and respect him due to his excellent grades. Everything fell apart exactly 1 month ago, when, starting from that unfortunate day, he began being terrorized every dawn by the cursed image of the Crimson Crow. Overcome by panic, he began to train obsessively and reduce his sleep hours to escape the nightmares, but all that dedication amounted to nothing. Facing that was an agonizing torture, and today marked exactly the 30th time he was torn apart by that fiendish creature in his dreams. Taking a radical step, he removes the device from his wrist to notify the landlady, deciding to leave the place as he is no longer in a position to stay. Through the virtual call, he explains to the lady that he was dismissed from the school and lost the reason to live there, indicating that she can now get the keys back. As soon as he ends the connection, the young man lies his head back on the pillow and closes his eyes in the dark, fully aware of what he would face next. As if it were a punishment, he wakes up once again inside that familiar ruined landscape, noticing with great frustration that he has returned to his personal nightmare. The blood crow soon appears flying imposingly, being the apex predator among level 1 creatures and easily surpassing the power of a novice fighter. The beast opens its beak, emitting a terrifying noise that echoes through the ruins, showing it is ready to tear the boy to shreds again. Looking at it, Chen Mu's heart fills with hatred, knowing that it was that monster that drained his energy, ruined his training, and kept him out of the university. Without wasting a single second, the winged creature attacks fiercely, cutting through the wind, sinking its claws into the boy and making him scream in agony. The monster's charge is too strong to be contained, resulting in a severe gash on Chen Mu's left arm, causing him to take heavy damage and tearing his clothes right from the start. Even injured and cornered, he grabs his wounded arm and unleashes his rage, completely refusing to accept the disdainful look the beast throws at him. Staring intently into the creature's red eye, the young man yells that his entire future was destroyed because of it, and that he won't stand being humiliated there anymore. Using the very last drop of his willpower, Chen Mu channels pure energy to his intact hand, generating a blazing golden aura around his fist. The moment the bird charges at him again, the boy goes into a frenzy and decides to risk everything in this counterattack, swearing to take down that threat right then and there. Getting a strong and agile leap from the ground, he twists his body with fury and throws an extremely violent uppercut against the cocky enemy. The formidable strike cuts through the air as the young man lets out a fierce battle cry, focusing all his pent-up distress on the tip of his glowing fist. Surprisingly, the attack hits the target with precision, sending the gigantic crow flying through the air by the force of the flames, losing feathers and tumbling in flight. Immediately after the explosion caused by the strike, a blinding flash dazzles Chen Mu, who lets out a groan of pain as he feels his head pounding hard. Completely dizzy and feeling like he is floating in a reddish space, he is hit by an unbearable migraine, feeling as if a mental block had been shattered. Suddenly, his left eye starts to emit an intense and frightening red glow, making it clear that his usual physical limits have been surpassed. A gigantic and harsh flash falls from the sky like a divine pillar, devastating the ground of the mental battlefield with absurd force. Taking advantage of this mysterious gift, the MC triggers a golden purification state, which strengthens his bones and heals his battle injuries. Mind blown by the energy constantly flowing through his system, he notes with fascination that he has awakened telekinesis, an incredibly rare skill straight out of legends. Standing still in the ruins with sparks flying from his hands, Chen Mu is utterly amazed, trying to process the recent event. He marvels upon noticing that he was actually able to annihilate the Blood Crow, a top-tier beast that terrifies martial arts practitioners. The young man concludes that telekinesis is exclusive to the masters of the Holy Realm, finding it surreal to have obtained this ability without having even a single star of power. Frustrated, he sighs and laments that it's all just an illusion, since in the real world he lacks the strength to even take down the beast. With the battle concluded in his mind, he slowly closes his eyes as the illusion fades away. Waking up with a jolt, the young man jumps up in his bed, panting, totally disoriented by what he just witnessed in his dream. Still in the darkness of his room, the guy looks at his own hands, trying to see if any changes occurred in himself. Right then, he notices his body overflowing with pure energy, also realizing that his mental capacity is much faster and sharper. To confirm his suspicion, Chen Mu decides to put this new strength to the test by facing the punching bag in the corner of the room. Focusing the energy he just discovered, the guy throws an extremely violent punch at the workout gear. The insane hit generates a bang so loud it shakes the building, causing the neighborhood dog to bark in affright. Astonished by the destruction, the young man realizes he had never thrown a strike with such force, gaining the certainty that his stats went up. The boy didn't imagine he would actually become more powerful, figuring out that the fact is directly linked to the monster he defeated. Suddenly, a brand new thought crosses his mind when he remembers the telekinesis power. With his left eye glowing, the MC excitedly asks himself if the mental skill from the dream also materialized in real life. Quickly, Chen Mu focuses on the room's door to find out if he can open it using the power of his mind. Upon reaching out his hand, a brutal blast of golden energy is ejected from his body, tearing the hinges off the wood instantly. Surrounded by glowing sparks, the young man can't hold back his excitement as he validates the awakening of that mythological power. He finds the concept of vastly increasing his strength just through the act of sleeping and dreaming unbelievable. With his fists clenched, the young man gets the feeling that this new ability is incredibly overpowered. Right then, the communicator located on his wrist starts a call. Landlady Zhang appears in a projection, informing him that the situation isn't great, having already refunded his rent money and asking him to stay for a few more days. Touching the holographic image, the boy thanks her kindly, admitting that the lady has always treated him excellently. Following that, little Chuantuan pops up on the broadcast exclaiming that she misses him, tearfully begging her older brother not to leave. The MC asks the little one to behave, promising to take her out to have fun as soon as he returns from a visit to his relatives. Overcome by a strong resolve, he informs the landlady of his change of plans, letting her know he will continue renting the place to focus on the martial arts exam. Hearing the update, the woman shows great joy and mentions that her daughter was throwing a fit about his departure. The two of them wish the guy luck in this new chapter and end the call. The young man lets out a soft laugh, noticing that the girl had once again snatched her mother's bracelet to play around, being mischievous as always. Staring at the heavy damage done to his bedroom entrance, the guy sighs, mentally apologizing to the landlady since he will have to fix the mess. A few hours later, the repairman finishes fixing the door and accepts the thanks, puzzled about how an isolated tremor only broke that specific frame. Walking hurriedly down the street, Chen Mu figures he needs to quickly visit a specialized complex to evaluate his current power level. A huge screen on the street broadcasts a news report about the Blue Star Destiny Alliance having contained a monster offensive on its borders. The report explains that the mentioned organization was created with the purpose of protecting humans from demonic beasts after decades of conflicts. Led by 5 global powers, the Alliance represents the ultimate pillar of safety that still keeps defenses active across the globe. Reaching his place of interest, the boy stops in front of the gigantic and technological structure of the Thunder Martial Arts Center. He admits that such professional environments became essential for practitioners to be able to train and measure their own vital energy. Inside the lobby, the guy is promptly and politely assisted by a woman at the front desk. The staff member asks if he only intends to rent a room or if he will need to request a training partner to simulate fights. Opting for the simplest route, the boy chooses to solely rent the room, at which point the receptionist goes ahead and books it on the computer. She hands over the access to room number 8 on the second floor, notifying him that the fee will be 200 blue star coins per hour. As soon as the customer turns his back, the woman mocks his humble clothes, concluding he didn't have the funds to afford a sparring partner. While she watches the young man disappear down the darkened hallway, the employee holds on to her doubts about him, wondering what kind of results he could achieve by himself. Once inside the modern and fully equipped testing room, the guy gets ready to uncover the true level of his vital energy right now. A blazing energy begins to run through Chen Mu's arms as he starts the machine's rigorous testing. The equipment's digital screen analyzes the force and promptly displays the spectacular mark of 138.3 calories. Looking at his own hands, Chen Mu realizes he easily surpassed the 100-calorie mark required to be classified as a one-star fighter. He clenches his trembling fists, fascinated by the fact that a simple nightmare generated such a massive leap in his energy limit. Keeping up the pace, the young man steps in front of the impact machine to check the exact weight he can hit with a punch. Focusing a lot of energy through his arm, he throws a brutal strike that dents the machine's structure with intense force. The scoreboard registers 1,480 kilograms, and the guy breathes a sigh of relief upon seeing that the professional machine withstood the blow. The MC figures that if his agility also meets the requirements, it will be possible to head to the Alliance to get his badge. With that goal in mind, he steps onto the complex's advanced treadmill and authorizes the start of the speed evaluation. The equipment speeds up as the boy sprints with extreme swiftness, running so fast that sparks of energy cover his entire body. 1 minute later, Chen Mu leans on the dashboard taking a deep breath, mind blown for having gained so much strength rapidly just by taking down a monster. A bold thought crosses his mind as he ponders whether new demonic monsters will appear in his dreams if he goes back to sleep. With a dark smile on his face, the young man internally admits that he is already looking forward to that happening. He estimates that by becoming a professional fighter, he will receive a salary of 10,000 coins per month and will be able to hunt, securing his mother's medicine and his sister's training. In the center of the brightly lit room, the boy makes the decision not to use his telekinesis in public spaces, aiming to guarantee his safety. Chen Mu wraps up his thought process, understanding that the dream holds many secrets, and that exposing mental abilities before becoming an official fighter is way too risky. Wrapping up his training session, the MC calmly walks back to the front desk to officially check out of the rented room. Suddenly, his former classmate Wang Yu shows up in the lobby with an arrogant posture, asking what he was doing in a high-end place like that. The fake friend taunts him, claiming the guy went to try out the equipment because he couldn't swallow his failure at school, advising him to just give up once and for all. Shooting a stern look at the individual, Chen Mu catches on to the provocation and asks if there is some shady motive behind his dismissal from school. Acting all fake, Wang Yu smiles, feigning innocence, and shoots the question back, pretending not to understand what he is talking about. Next, the scumbag bursts into laughter and accuses the guy of deserving the expulsion after fighting over a woman and offending Li Tian. Chen Mu feels confused as he recalls the two-star heir of the Li lineage, as he doesn't know when he would have provoked the guy. At that moment, a memory hits the MC abruptly, leading him to conclude that the girl could only be Yu Qington. The boy remembers that their families have arranged marriage agreements, and since the girl studied with his sister, they kept it to just exchanging greetings on the streets. He gets furious realizing that someone powerful harbored such great and petty hatred for a completely dumb reason. Wang Yu mocks the MC for only thinking about studying, revealing that the teacher took a massive bribe to ensure his expulsion at all costs. Showing a wicked and twisted face, the traitor cracks a wide smile and maliciously asks if it feels good to experience losing everything. Fury takes over Chen Mu's eyes, who declares he saw the boy as a brother and was totally blind to his true nature. A reddish aura surrounds Wang Yu, who scoffs at the use of the word brother and states he only hung out with a loser to follow orders. Emitting sparks from his body, Chen Mu takes a step forward in a threatening tone, demanding to find out what the fraud got and what he did to sabotage him. Wang Yu insults his former partner, telling him not to fight in vain, claiming his vitality will never bounce back after taking that unknown substance. Startled by the info, Chen Mu immediately realizes that the sudden drop in his strength had nothing to do with his recent nightmares. Following that, the boy grabs his fake friend's hand with fury, demanding to know right then and there if he holds any responsibility for his weakness. Caught off guard by the sudden move, the traitor hesitates for a moment, noticing the pressure of that grip on his own arm. However, he quickly regains his superior attitude, scoffing that the student has no proof against him even if he is the guilty one. The villain even warns that complaining to the martial guard will be useless, since no one in the city would pick a fight for someone so talentless. The MC is overcome by rage and squeezes his rival's wrist even harder, creating a heavy and terrifying atmosphere in the lobby. Managing to break free, Wang Yu laughs at his opponent's anger and brags about being on the verge of becoming a one-star fighter, not believing he could actually be hit. Away from the scene, some students peek at the conflict with curiosity, predicting that the poor guy facing the genius is going to end up in big trouble. Without hesitating, the bully winds up an energy-packed punch and swears he will teach an unforgettable lesson on what happens when someone challenges him. However, Chen Yu blocks the strike without breaking a sweat, pointing out that in reality, those words should be coming out of his mouth. With his left eye glowing brightly, the young man studies his opponent's attack, clearly noticing that the charge was sluggish and full of flaws. Taking advantage of this opening, the guy notes in awe that his current official fighter power has reached a ridiculously higher level than before. Using a swift and precise dash, he delivers a devastating counterattack straight to his former classmate's face. The blow lands perfectly on his face, shocking the backstabber without giving him any chance to try and block the hit. Faced with the brutality of the impact, Wang Yu's body absorbs the direct damage right in the stomach area, making him scream in intense pain. Completely losing his senses and coughing up spit from a distance, the scumbag cannot comprehend the monstrous speed of his rival. The overwhelming power of the attack doesn't stop, launching the instigator into the air as if he were a mere scarecrow. Unable to regain his balance midair, he violently crashes into the venue's glass door, shattering the entire structure with the force of the fall. A thick cloud of dust and broken glass rises in the air, leaving only an enigmatic shadow visible among the destroyed remains. Watching the guy sprawled on the ground covered in injuries, the other students are dumbfounded by how easily the so-called prodigy was taken down. Walking calmly through the smoke, the MC appears with an intimidating posture, scaring the crowd with his absurd level of strength. Covered in small golden flames, he catches the attention of everyone present, who quickly conclude he is a genuine martial arts master. At that moment, the young man calmly turns his face to the front desk attendant and instructs that the cost of the door be put on his tab. Shaking with terror at the sight of that strength, the receptionist just stammers, confirming the arrangement without even questioning the order. Sprawled amidst the glass shards, the defeated guy painfully tries to drag himself across the floor, crushed by the massive humiliation he suffered in front of everyone. Totally infuriated and bleeding heavily, he rejects the idea of having been steamrolled by a guy he deemed to be an absolute good-for-nothing. But before he can finish his indignant thought process, Chen Mu steps heavily on his skull, shoving his face right back into the floor. Gripped by terror, the guy under his foot starts screaming that the attacker will pay dearly if he finishes him off inside the official facilities. Shooting an ice-cold look of anger, the young man ignores the warnings and demands to find out right then what substance the coward administered to drain his stats. Pinned down and out of escape routes, the fake ex-classmate just swallows hard without saying a word, unable to muster the courage to confess what he did. Seeing this lack of response, the MC gets the confirmation that it was all a setup to drug him. All around, the witnesses try to de-escalate the situation, warning that disagreements are normal, but that taking someone out completely would lead to disastrous punishments. Heeding the rational warnings from the crowd, Chen Mu takes his foot off his rival's head and assures them he only held back his strength on purpose. He is certain that a single punch with his true power activated would be enough to wipe out that miserable individual. Turning his back on his beaten enemy, the main character leaves the place, making a promise to himself that he won't forgive Li Tian and will seek his payback. As he walks away, the crowd keeps gossiping about the huge beatdown the arrogant student took, even after trying to act tough earlier. Left on the floor, Wang Yu grits his teeth full of resentment, unable to digest how his victim managed to get so much power even after being poisoned. The scumbag decides to alert his superiors without delay, keeping in mind that the wealthy Li lineage runs the place and has incredibly powerful bosses. In his twisted mind, the rich master of the family will take care of the problem with the MC swiftly and without breaking a sweat. Pounding the shattered floor driven by sheer rage, he screams his old acquaintance's name and swears to force him to his knees, begging for mercy. Far from that chaos, the night covers the north side of the city, falling over the humble district where the Chen residence is located. Walking deep in thought down the empty street, the boy deduces that the villain gained massive financial perks by stealing his strength. Motivated by his plans, he decides he will take the definitive test the very next day to raise funds quickly and move his family to a luxury area. The young man believes that the strict security of the wealthy neighborhood will be the perfect remedy to avoid future attacks from the dangerous Li lineage. Arriving at the house, the sound of keys jangling is heard right as a familiar voice curiously asks from inside who is arriving at that hour. The door is unlocked, revealing the sweet Zuru, the boy's smart twin sister, who acts thrilled and amazed by his unannounced arrival. Petting the girl's head, he declares he missed her, but she quickly asks about the gloomy rumors of his expulsion going around. The girl shoots him a worried look, wanting to know what kind of tragedy caused her big hero to leave school. Trying to dodge the subject, the MC calmly takes off his jacket, leaving his sister completely shocked by his muscular physique. Soon after, their mom appears massaging their dad's back, and in a loving way, scolds the guy for showing up without a heads-up. The father stands up with a tense look and asks about the latest test scores. However, the young man ignores the question and urgently asks for dinner. Smiling with relief over the family reunion, the woman notices he changed the topic and rushes to the kitchen, promising to whip up a massive feast. Minutes later, the starving guy rapidly demolishes an absurd amount of food plates, leaving absolutely nothing left on the table. The couple watches the meal with huge surprise and in a cold sweat, whispering to each other if the boy's appetite had always been that abnormally huge. Completely stuffed after the great meal, the boy wipes his lips with his hands, noticing his body is restored after the exhausting day. Taking on a very serious demeanor, he announces to his parents that he needs to discuss a highly important matter and asks for everyone's attention in the living room. Getting straight to the point, the student shares that he measured his physical stats on official machines and that he already met the requirements for the 1-star rank. The news shakes up the family in the room, making the girl jump for joy, and the mom asks him not to joke around about such serious matters. Flashing a highly confident smile, the young man doubles down that it's no joke and guarantees he will take the official evaluation first thing the next morning. The sister crosses her arms a bit skeptical, recalling that her own innate talent had always outclassed the guys since they were little kids. In her mind, she had always pictured herself dominating the fighting arenas, unable to process how he surpassed her so fast. Feeling relieved by the good news, the man flashes a wide smile and points out that such great news shouldn't be kept a secret. Leaning slightly forward, Chenmu asks his dad to quit his tiring job, leaving it up to him to pay the household bills from now on. The father stands up immediately and harshly turns down the offer, proudly stating that he still has plenty of energy to do his job. The youngest girl also raises her hand and jumps into the debate, claiming she will get a student stipend to help out with the household finances. Touched by their stubborn refusal, the MC stays quiet for a moment, embraced by the immense love his family shows. Breaking the tension of that moment, the mother also enthusiastically raises her hand and, without skipping a beat, approves of her son's plan. This quick reply leaves the girl and the father totally scandalized, looking at her totally baffled by that betrayal of their mindset. Giving a sharp, motherly look, the woman claims to deeply know the boy she raised and demands to hear the real reasons behind all this. The boy lets out a heavy sigh and decides to come clean with the truth, explaining that he is being targeted by a powerful man who could mess with his dad at work. Grasping the risk involved, the parents agree with the safety recommendation and ensure they will fight together against the hardships. Pumped up by this full support, the young man clenches his fists, determined to keep improving to protect his beloved family. The young girl scratches her head in total confusion, trying to process the contradiction of a powerful fighter being kicked out of school on purpose. Suddenly, a gut feeling hits the girl's sharp mind, leading her to the insane theory that his power was completely awakened in the span of a single day. Later that night, inside his pitch-black room, the MC lies down to rest after a very exhausting day. Keeping his eyes wide open in the dark, he starts reflecting on the events that took place over the previous hours. At that moment, the door opens, showing Zuru, who stares at her brother with heavy doubt and asks what is really going on. The girl wants to understand how he lost his spot at school early in the morning and had already turned into a martial arts practitioner by the end of the day. The young man confirms the facts, clarifying that he got into trouble with a high-ranking guy and had to hide the truth to keep her safe. Gently guiding the young girl out of the room, he asks her not to stress over the fine details of this situation. Zuru, however, flashes a confident smile, reinforcing that he will forever have a brilliant and powerful sister to back him up. Chuckling softly, Chenmu agrees and instructs the girl to go to sleep quickly, considering she has classes at the crack of dawn. When the door is finally locked, total darkness goes back to dominating the young man's room. Settling back in, the boy concludes that it wasn't the nightmares that caused his weakness and wonders if the illusion will happen again. Since the workouts in his mind directly impact his real body, he wishes a new creature would manifest itself. Closing his eyelids in a calm state, he quickly falls asleep, looking forward to taking the exam. Sometime later, the MC wakes up again inside that shattered psychic landscape infested with reddish tones. Standing among the debris, Chen Mu shows great excitement as he proves that the training environment persists in his mind. All of a sudden, the rubble shakes, and he notices a colossal figure approaching through the smoke screen. Enduring the terrifying pressure in the air, he figures that this energy is vastly superior to the beast he faced earlier. The guy looks at the danger without turning away, focused on identifying what creature he will face in this stage. Emerging from the shadows, a colossal demonic ape appears cloaked in dark fire and striking a terrifying pose. The scary beast fiercely beats its own chest, letting out a deafening roar that makes the whole environment shake. Instantly, Chen Mu's brain recognizes the monster's data, labeling it as a dark demon monkey. The displayed stats show terrifying levels, pointing to a giant build with durability equal to tough metals. Just by staring at that animalistic face up close, the boy experiences the suffocating heaviness of the threat weighing on his shoulders. Clenching his hands tightly, he pushes hard to overcome the primal terror chilling his spine. Instead of running away, the young man throws a challenging smirk and charges violently, picking a fight with the beast. Gaining a strong momentum off the floor, he leaps towards the monster, who also roars back with hatred. Moving fast, the massive primate winds up a fire-covered smash to obliterate the cocky human. Timing it perfectly, Chen Mu swiftly dodges the devastating blow, while the ground shatters from the impact. Spinning midair, the young man notes in awe that he absorbed the flawless defensive reflexes from the recently defeated crow. Landing safely on the rubble, he gathers an incredibly strong golden energy around his own arm. Locking onto the enemy, the guy throws a lightning-fast punch that precisely hits the gigantic beast's armored chest. The young man goes into pure shock upon realizing that his most powerful strike didn't even put a dent in the creature. With no chance to run, he suffers the recoil from the opponent's defense and takes a hit from the generated shockwave. Taking advantage of the opening, the monster delivers an aggressive swipe that sends the MC flying across the mental arena. Dragged across the broken terrain, Chen Mu hits the brakes using his feet and with great effort regains his balance. The two rivals lock eyes again, keeping their distance, calculating each other's capabilities through the dirt cloud. The peaceful break is short-lived, as the beast charges forward, smashing everything under its feet using an inhuman level of strength. Sweating cold, the MC realizes that this opponent's brutality is on a level that's impossible to deal with. The monster tries to grab him with its massive paws, but the boy's agility saves him from the grab by a fraction of a second. The ape fails to hit the human and stomps the ground so furiously that rocks go flying in all directions. Performing a quick spinning move, the beast tries again, leaving the young man dumbfounded by such a level of agility on a body that size. Enveloped in a murderous reddish aura, the monster fixes its cruel gaze to deal the fatal blow to its prey. Unable to protect himself at this moment, Chen Mu is violently crushed by a merciless combo of physical attacks. Waking up with a jump, he sits up in bed panting heavily, still feeling the pain of the beatdown all over his body. Putting on his slippers, the young man flashes an excited smile, confirming that getting wrecked by such a powerful rival also boosts his stats. Stretching his body with a happy yawn, he figures that in real life it would be game over, but inside the dream he can be taken out continuously without any issues. Evaluating the numbers in his mind, the guy notes that the beast holds a rank equivalent to a human in the transcendent realm. Due to this monstrous gap in power, he admits he'll keep taking epic beatings from that primate for quite a while. Hurriedly throwing on his jacket, Chen Mu figures it's time to head to the Alliance complex to take his formal evaluation. Entering the premises, the MC sees the hustle in the Grand Hall, which features a massive warrior sculpted at the entrance. Staring at the majestic statue, the young man wonders when he will gain enough energy to match such a heroic standard. He warmly concludes that despite the setbacks, his family and buddies never stopped giving him strength. On his walk down the street, the boy freezes upon noticing, through an electronic billboard, that the neighboring city of Ake fell victim to a tragic beast invasion. A wave of distress hits his chest as he remembers that Ms. Zhang and the little girl live exactly in that affected region. The media announces alarming casualty numbers and glorifies the dedication of the defenders who sacrificed themselves holding off the attack. The young man's eyes open wide in sheer terror as he hears the following updates about the disaster on the television. The news anchor indifferently reports that both the mother and little Chuantuan lost their lives amid the destruction caused by the invading horde. The boy lowers his head in deep sorrow, understanding that the lack of messages from the girl meant she had already passed away and wasn't just mad at him. Shedding tears full of resentment, he swears to never again let freaks steal the lives of the people he cares about. Filled with a silent thirst for revenge, the MC moves forward into the building determined to reach peak strength to dominate the planet. Inside the testing room, the genius Yu Kington strikes the machine with a powerful blow, scoring brilliant strength numbers. The examiner praises the girl for her spectacular results and hands her the esteemed official 1-star badge. Striking a haughty pose, the girl holds the plate that officially validates her new warrior rank. Shortly after, Li Tian approaches her oozing charm and inviting her to celebrate such a huge personal triumph. Near them, the regular folks whisper about how the two make the perfect pair, pointing out the 2-star credentials the young man already holds. The gossipers' focus shifts when the subservient Wang Yu spots from a distance a familiar face arriving in the lobby. The fraud scowls right away and mockingly asks if the boy came back to the place to catch another beating. Trying to cover up his own panic, the villain warns that the guy's power level won't mean a thing with the powerful air in the room. The rich kid yells the boy's name out loud in front of everyone, drawing the curious eyes of those just chatting around. Looking at the young man with disgust, the tycoon asks if losing his spot at school wasn't a good enough lesson and if he wishes to throw his life away completely. Following that, the girl Yu Kington steps between the rich kid and the newcomer, taking it upon herself to harshly put the rookie in his place. The girl oozes arrogance, ordering him not to take advantage of the family tie with her sister to beg for her attention. Totally disregarding the rude accusations, Chen Yu walks right past the girl stating he is just passing through and couldn't care less about her. Feeling highly disrespected by this insensitive attitude, the genius gets furious and calls him crazy for ignoring her. Seeing the tycoon being disrespected, Wang Yu shakes with indignation and won't tolerate that miserable kid's nerve. Aiming to suck up to the leader, the backstabber lunges angrily behind Chen Mu, swearing to teach him some manners for good. The exam proctor jumps into the feud yelling nervously, clarifying that physical fights are strictly banned in the official testing area. Losing his cool, the supervisor warns that if the conflict continues, everyone involved will be barred from taking tests for exactly 3 months. Seeing the crowd back off, the proctor breathes out in annoyance, grumbling to himself that today's youth have zero patience. Given this, the MC calmly walks up to him and demands the exam, impressing the supervisor with such chillness, and is officially called up next. Standing a bit away, the wealthy Li Tian thoughtfully watches the scene, keeping in mind that the poison is incurable and suspecting whether the guy actually overcame the energy drain effect. The student steps onto the platform of the modern equipment, placing his hand on it and finally starting the highly anticipated measurement of his body's strength. The entire room drops into dead silence waiting for the numbers. However, the machine's panel seems to not compute the boy's performance. Using the glitch as an excuse, the rich kid scoffs, claiming that his stats are so pathetic that the system crashed, confident that his substance caused permanent damage. However, the machine's screen flashes a red warning tone, displaying lines of absurdly fast frequencies in a row. The heir notices the sudden light coming from the measurement stage, instantly dropping his mocking face as he fails to process the turn of events. In a matter of seconds, a massive eruption of dark and red powers escapes the machine, entirely surrounding Chen Mu with a terrifying pressure. Astonished by this colossal display of brute force, the proctor exclaims that the device froze momentarily while trying to calculate highly exaggerated numbers. The display screen finally registers the impressive numbers of 198 calories, leaving the crowd in a state of shock upon witnessing stats worthy of a true 2-star legend.